San Francisco 49ers Kyle Shanahan is under a ton of scrutiny this season for how this year has just went. The 49ers aren't in the playoffs. They're not playing for nothing. There's been a lot of weird things that have surrounded this team. And so, a certain portion of the fan base has taken target to Kyle Shanahan, going as far as saying he should be fired and relieved of his duties. But as it was reported from Tim Kawakami, Jed York gave a vote of confidence, essentially saying that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan aren't going anywhere, putting to bed any of these rumors and unfound reports that, he would be fired at the end of the season. So that isn't going to happen. And so in this kind of clip, you're going to see Kyle Shanahan take responsibility for some of the, not some of, I guess, all of the issues this year. So take a look. And this is what he had to say in regards to kind of self evaluating himself this season.
Are you frustrated with your individual performance this season, or do you feel like you controlled the things you could control?
I don't understand how to answer that question. I work as hard as I can at my individual performance. So I'm frustrated with our season. I'm responsible for everything. So I think you can figure that out.
If there's anything that I've learned about 49er fans is they appreciate when the players and or coaches take accountability for mistakes or issues or whatever, failures. Um, I think Brock Purdy has done a phenomenal job at this. I think we saw with Jimmy Garoppolo, whenever he was at the podium, it drove fans crazy because he would always reference we when he would throw like a game ending interception or making just a really bad decision. And, fans would go a little crazy because he would stand up there and he'd say, we, instead of I. And I think when you look at Brock Purdy, he's phenomenal. Like, he will never throw anyone under the bus. He takes full responsibility for every mistake, even if there is something else in play. He doesn't feel the need to do that. He recognizes as a leader that just to stand in front of the camera, stand in front of the microphone, take responsibility for it, and even if it wasn't your fault, and just move on. And so with Kyle, I would say this is one of the areas where he doesn't do a ton of self-reflection, to be able to like say that like it's all his fault and things like that. But to Kyle's credit, good for him. Asked the question of assessing himself this season, and he says he's frustrated with this year and he's responsible for everything. And to a certain point, he's the head guy in charge. He is above John Lynch. He is the head guy in regards to how this team is built and how it's structured and all of those things. We do know that it is a collaborative effort. After everything we've learned about this team, John Lynch and his team are very involved. Parag Marathe and his team are very involved, and the coaches are very involved in a lot of decisions, including draft picks. We know that certain position coaches will get to draft like the 5th round pick or the 6th round pick or the 7th round pick. So as we continue to move forward, I do appreciate that from Kyle. I do appreciate that he took responsibility, because I do agree that that just isn't his strong suit. It's definitely not something that he's done a lot in the past, in regards to just taking accountability and ownership for some of the issues that may have happened. Um, I'm sure there's a lot of pride involved, and I think it's great of him to do that. And I think that fans can respect that. I think fans can recognize that it's not been a good year. It's been a frustrating year. And for your head coach to stand up there and say, I'm responsible for it all. And even if he's not, because he's not, he's not responsible for it all. But again, the point being is just, showing a little bit of growth and, emotional maturity to be able to understand that, this is what you got to say and got to do as a leader. So I like that. I do. I like the response. I understand again, it's kind of not his wheelhouse to be speaking from that place. I think, I've psychoanalyzed Kyle Shanahan from the very beginning. So and I've made my observations of him very clear. I think he's, a very logical brained type of person, thinks in ranges of outcomes and things like that. And I think he's so focused on the football details and all those other things that, he doesn't typically. I know he kind of talked about it with Jake Moody about his mental. Like he's not, I don't, he doesn't strike me as a guy who like treats football from like an emotionally intelligent standpoint. And that's just what it's called. It's called emotional intelligence, to be able to understand the different ranges of emotions that any individual might be going through, because we all know, you know, every individual is different. Some people respond to certain types of coaching. Some people need to get yelled at. Some people need to get their feet held to the fire. Some people need to have their arm put around them, and some people need patience. Some people need different kind of ways of being coached, and that's true at any level, not just at the NFL. But I think Kyle is of the mindset like, you're in the NFL. This is a job. We're all getting paid. We all have the expectations to be great. I don't have time to coddle you. I don't have time to adjust myself to you. Um, and I think that's just how he goes about it. Now, I could be wrong. Again, I'm on the outside looking in, but that's just been always my perspective, is that he doesn't typically adjust himself to whoever. That's why you get a lot of guys who kind of flame out, is because, like, for example, like a Dante Pettis, he strikes me as a guy who you need to put your arm around him. Trey Lance, a guy you need to put your arm around him. And I just don't think that's his go-to. I think his go-to is like, I've given you all the information. I've told you how it needs to be done. And if you don't execute it, that's on you. And he doesn't really care about, like, maybe the anxiety of a player and what they're going through, maybe the lack of confidence that they have. Like, like, I think of the game just yesterday where the kicker missed a kick, and they show Steve Sarkisian. He's got his hands on the shoulder pads. He's looking at his eyes. They're like, the mood is light, and he's just trying to like get switch the mindset to being so pressure packed and pressure filled, to be like, all right, you're good, man. You know, I've never seen Kyle do that. I've never seen like Kyle like be like, "Hey, you're good, man." like, if anything, it's sideline cuts and Kyle's MFing someone of like, you didn't do your job or responsibility. And again, it's like every coach is different. He's got that old school mentality. His dad was that way. He's the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. That's just his coaching style. Every coach has their own individual coaching style. Dan Campbell, he's going to be a guy that's going to put his arm around you, and he's going to, he might get on you and demand a lot, but he's also going to, be there for the emotional side of it. So, that might not be Kyle's forte, and that might not be, how he is as a coach. Doesn't mean it can't be a successful way of coaching, but I do think it's a good thing that he was able to take accountability for it, and you know, I think people appreciate that. But I'm curious to know what you guys think. So let me know in the comments below, and as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.